Meeting today is 14th of June, and I'll quickly share the link of meeting minutes in chat again if you have missed before. Make sure you mark your attendance, and if you got an agenda, feel free to add it in. And before we start with introduction, so if you got a webcam and a shirt on, don't be shy. Feel free to open your webcams. This meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, so you can catch the recording on Layfire's YouTube channel later. So let's start with introduction for newcomers. So if you haven't introduced yet on this call, this is your chance. You can unmute yourself and give a quick introduction and say hi to the community. So I see Adiola. So hi Adiola, welcome to the call. Would like to introduce?
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be among the development call for the first time. My name is Adiola, and I'm tuning from Nigeria. I'm a newbie at Meshery Layer 5 projects, and I'm glad I'm here this afternoon.
Oh, that's great. Nice to have you, Adiola. Hope you will
Thank
enjoy the
you.
call and find a good spot in the community.
Thank you.
All right. So I don't think there's anyone else in this call who hasn't introduced yet. So Harsh Dobaria, I'll just quick check in. So is this your first time or you have introduced yourself in this call? Oh, all right. Cool. So before we move to the next item, so let's first share this thing. So if you haven't started the Meshery repository yet, make sure you go and give it a star. Do share it with your friends, college groups, peers, or anyone. And do publish your first design into the Meshery catalog, and we'll be sending out a tweet from Meshery's account. So, yep, if you haven't made your first design, make a first design and publish to the Meshery catalog. And we have a decent list of agenda items today. So we'll start off with Abdullah's topic, verify connection spreadsheet. So Abdullah, would like to take the stage?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Yeah. So currently we have a spreadsheet that documents all the different connections that we have and the different ways in which we can interact with them through the different clients, either through the CLI Meshery CTL or the UI. So what I did is I went through each of the different actions that different ways we can interact with each of these connections demonstrated in the spreadsheet and audited them to checking to see if it indeed works or not. So what I found was a Meshery CTL system check doesn't really work as expected. It is unable to reach Meshery operated mesh sync as well as the broker, as well as on the UI side of things. The Meshery broker can't ever be pinged. Other than that, as for the Grafana and Prometheus servers, I was not successful in testing them, mainly because I was unable to deploy them through Istio. So whenever I tried deploying Grafana and Prometheus through Istio, this is the error that kept popping up. Yeah, I've documented the issues that I faced.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Before you move on from that error, there's a couple of things we should do. One is when you click on the error code, and you, the error code there is not quite right. Antoinette, this might be something that you can help us with. So that was 1012, I think, and that error code is most likely specific to the Istio adapter. However, the hyperlink that we're showing in the notification center, it just says 1002. And when the hyperlink is clicked, it does have a pound sign, an anchor Meshery adapter for Istio, but it could potentially have a hyperlink that goes directly to the specific error. This error code isn't the actual error code. It's only half of the story. So that there's, and then the error message itself is all right, but it's missing a probable cause and suggested remediation. And so there are about 3 issues at the moment with this particular error code. So the error code is not the actual error code. The link that you click doesn't take you to, well, to the section of the page. If you click it again, for whatever reason, it doesn't quite get you to that section. But if you scroll down to where it says Meshery-Istio, the component name, the hyperlink, yeah, that hyperlink, when you just clicked it, it's kind of a weird thing because it uses the same anchor. You can see in your address bar, it's Meshery adapter for it. It's the same exact anchor that was being used in Meshery UI, but the site visitor is not being landed on the anchor. Kind of weird. It would be helpful if they were. It would at least put them in the right component area so they could search for 1012 from there. But part of the reality here is that all of those error codes are known. Yeah, all of the documentation for the error codes is known upfront, known prior to release. So actually, we don't necessarily have to redirect people to the documentation. It's fine that we do. But we could just show it to them right inside of the notification center. That would be quite helpful. So the error itself doesn't suggest what might have occurred or how you might fix it. But if you see that there's the error add-on template code 1002, I mean, so it's the second to the bottom of the page at the moment, Abdullah. I'm sorry to hijack your discussion. I want to make this point. And these are things that a number of different people can help with, because there's multiple aspects to what we're talking about. So one thing that we're talking about is just simple HTML with anchors and how to make sure people land on the right section of the page. That's straight up HTML. Right? Maybe some JavaScript if you couldn't figure it out with HTML, but it's completely possible with just HTML. The other one is to potentially React, is to potentially work with a little bit of React to help ensure that the details of the error code are actually visible right inside of the notification center without having to redirect the user to the docs. There you go. Another one is within Golang to fix whatever the issue is if there's a bug, which we haven't explored just yet. But there's another, and that requires a medium level of comfort with Golang. There's a beginner level of comfort with Golang to fix here as well, where if Abdullah, on that second to bottom error code, we need to enhance it with, if you click on that row, hopefully it's clickable even though it doesn't show you a hand. So there's another HTML issue. In this case, it's CSS, with not showing someone the pointer hand to be able to click the row because they didn't know that they could. The entire row should be clickable. But the simple Golang fix that can be done here is, see where it says probable cause, suggested remediation, long description. They're all empty. Well, there's a simple Golang fix to go in and enter in text for what that is. So whether you are an HTML beginner, a CSS beginner, a Golang beginner, or a Golang medium, or someone who's worked with it for a little while, there's or whether you're medium skilled with medium, whatever that means. It's medium skilled with React. There's the Meshery UI enhancement to pull in that additional information. So someone was saying earlier that they couldn't find an issue to work on. And I heard Samyak saying that yesterday as well. Oh, there's a lot of open issues. All 5 of the ones that I just mentioned, I don't even think are open. But if I hear someone say it again, I'm going to hand you all 5 issues. Anyway, it's good that everybody is working on an issue. So if you don't have an issue, I just mentioned 5 different things. And if one of those things doesn't meet your skill set, it's nice to have you here. You might not have something to work on until you can learn HTML. So what I'm saying is there's something for everybody. And so I'm hoping that before the end of the call, we see 5 new GitHub issues opened. In the meantime, Antoinette, do you know, I wonder if you might look into where it is that we're losing specificity of the error code, how it is that we're only showing 1012 and not the full code itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking that whenever you mentioned that, I do remember seeing it some time ago, but I have to go look for it again. So yeah, I'll look for it right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. Back to you, Abdullah. By the way, so for the actual thing that you said, which is still kind of a sidebar, is like, well, you're running, I think you'd said you're running Docker desktop and running Kubernetes there. Okay. And so you're deploying Meshery inside of Kubernetes or on Docker?
I'm deploying Meshery on Kubernetes.
Okay. And then, yeah, you deploy, and when you do click to deploy Grafana as an add-on to Istio, did you happen to double check if maybe Grafana was present, but that error message was erroneous?
I've not done that, but I do know that Istio is running. I'm not sure if I haven't checked if Grafana was indeed deployed and I got the error.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
If Grafana was indeed deployed, shouldn't I be able to access it in the metric section?
Yeah, for sure. One thing that for sure, what you just said, just as you go to potentially troubleshoot this, that outside of confirming that Grafana is deployed, you would, in order for Meshery to report back that, oh, hey, here's an available Grafana to connect to, Mesh Sync would, you just need to want to verify that Mesh Sync is connected, and it looks like it, looks like it is. And so, yeah, nice. Okay.
Yeah, okay, that's it from me.
Oh no, wait, Abdullah, I think I totally, wait, go back to what you were saying. Were you just highlighting the fact that Grafana that we're having trouble with Grafana, or were you highlighting some connection state things?
So I was mainly highlighting this audit of the connection spreadsheet. As for my next steps towards the connection state machine, I'm currently looking into temporal. As for why we would require for everyone, why we would require temporal is when we look at the connection state machine. So some of these state transitions could be modeled as workflows. So when we register a Kubernetes cluster and we deploy connect an operator onto that cluster, it may not happen. So it is something that might fail or might take some time to happen. So we would require a workflow to for each of these automated transitions to manage them basically. So ideally, when we register a cluster, a workflow would run in the background that tries to deploy an operator, and if that workflow fails, we would want to maybe retry, identify the cause of that failure. For that reasons, we would incorporate a workflow engine into the connection state machine, and I'm looking to how temporal can be deployed along with Meshery, and I might start scaffolding temporal into Meshery soon.
Yeah. Hey, Abdullah, of the findings that you have inside of that spreadsheet, you performed something of an audit for all of the different interactions that a user can that a user can have with elements under management or systems under management, systems that Meshery connects to and manages. And those systems are what's in column A, which doesn't have a heading at the moment. But so in column A, there's a Kubernetes clusters and Grafana and Prometheus and Meshery adapters and different systems that Meshery can connect to that are ultimately Meshery can connect to, like, a couple hundred different types of systems. And so, yeah, as that list grows, you're trying to help ensure that Meshery has a decent level of consistency in terms of how it connects to and interacts with. Okay. And so it looks like in column C, a user might use Meshery UI to connect to one of these systems. Nice. And then it's described how it is that they establish the connection. Okay. Column D is like how they might disconnect. Okay, good. And this is again from Meshery UI. But then, yeah, okay. Good. So Abdullah, it looks like there's some red in there. If there are, I don't know if this means that we'll be opening up issues that other people on the call might pick up or what, but is that about right? Do the red ones deserve a GitHub issue?
Yeah, I think they do. I will open up. There is an issue already open for system check. As for the broker not being reachable from the UI, I'll open an issue for that.
Awesome. Anybody have questions for Abdullah? He had shown some diagrams a moment ago that looked kind of interesting with that connection state machine, as I think is what he had said. Anybody have questions on that? Abdullah, do you have those again? Just real fast. It's kind of a big old area, so I'm sure we're going to be talking about it a lot. And we talked about it last time a little bit. Yeah. Good. Hey, so you mentioned temporal, and Yash had a question in the chat about, so what, hey, what's that for? And in a word for workflow, a temporal being a workflow engine. But Abdullah, maybe you could use like that disconnected state right there for like, or any of these state transitions to sort of highlight how it is that a workflow engine like temporal would be helpful. Like how would it be used?
Sure. So firstly, Kubernetes clusters are only one type of connections. We can have many different connections with Meshery. Currently, we support over 215 different integrations. So for each of these different integrations, which might be a potential connection with Meshery, there has to be a robust system for managing their state. And if we were to, instead of trying to go ahead and build that from scratch, it would be better if we use an existing workflow engine to manage the state for all of those connections. So what advantages would a workflow engine give us? So some of the advantages that a workflow engine would give us that, firstly, it whatever state transitions that we decide to do, it might be more reliable with the help of a workflow engine. So with regards to over here, when we move from the connected state to disconnected state, we ideally want to undeploy the operator of the cluster. And what might happen is that operation might fail, or due to some network loss, the request might not go through. So we would want to have some retry mechanisms in that case. And once the operation has been actually performed, we would like to check, okay, what is the state of the cluster right now? And for benefits such as retries, for making sure that the state transitions are deterministic, all of a workflow engine would help us in all of these areas, and it would make the state machine that we're building eventually robust and scalable.
So there's a couple of folks on the call who are thinking on this, kind of digging in. I wonder if you might have questions. It sounded like, Abdullah, it sounded like one of the values of a workflow engine might be able to well, like provide a consistent way of handling, like when you handling failures, for example, like when you were provisioning Grafana earlier, and it looked like it's probably not being provisioned. And so what should Meshery do? Should Meshery try again? Did it make it halfway and it needs to revert? So should it retry, revert, cancel, break, like stop in place and just stay, and so, yeah, hopefully through use of a workflow engine like that, so some of that will become manageable. To your point, you were talking about the number of integrations that Meshery has. And so, gosh, yeah, if this diagram, it looks like this says states for Kubernetes cluster connections. So if this diagram is specific to just Kubernetes, like just one of the integrations, oh boy. Okay. Well, hopefully between all those integrations, this diagram looks more similar than different. Like hopefully there aren't, but okay. Yeah, and so for folks that might want to dig in here, there's the Meshery architecture deck. I know Abdullah can point out the fact that there's another slide in there that is a table. It's not it's a table that helps explain the states, or the proposed states. And I think some of those states might need a little more rigor in their thought. Like, is it well articulated what the difference is between connected and registered, for example, or ignored and deleted, and so there's an attempt, I think, to explain that in the notes and in the table. But for my part, I'm sure Abdullah, who's working in this area, he'd be curious to know, if those descriptions resonate, if they cover all the bases, or if we're, not considering for something. So.
Right now, I do not have anything to say for whether these states cover all the possible bases that we might require, but over time, I think I'll have a more definite answer as to what other states are required, or how the definition of some of these states can be different. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I think Abdullah, I would keep tabs on that discussion forum post. Mr. Tandon might have a few questions for you. So, good.
All right. Thanks, Abdullah. It was a great discussion. So moving on, next we have an RJSF update from Harkirat.
That's a better small item that I'm chewing down. That is the RJSF library update that I'm just carrying on, which I'm just testing if everything is working fine, or some of the things that we are doing on our own can be toned down with the new features or some bugs that have been resolved. So yeah, looking into their release notes, and let's see what we do disappeared regarding the RSS.
All right. Thanks, Agat. So Abhi and Uzair would like to present the next item.
Yeah, sure. So we would be talking about performance UI and its enhancements. Like from for the past week, like we have been working on performance UI and the performance in general. So there are some enhancements and fixes in the performance. Uh, there Uzair, would you like to talk about the night out performance test fixes?
Yeah, sure. So, as you all are aware that Meshery supports three load generators: Nighthawk, Fortio, and WRK2. So from since long, we were not able to perform performance tests by using Nighthawk as a load generator. So there were some issues between Fortio library and responses, like the stage at which we transform the results of Nighthawk into a format that the Meshery was compatible with. We were facing some issues with that. So it had couple of the main concern was that the main core of the issue was the different release, like the Nighthawk library that we were using was different, and the Nighthawk binary that we were using to perform the test was different. So basically in the conversion there were some issues. So with the latest PR merge and with the latest Meshery release, the Nighthawk is able to perform the load generation, like is able to perform the performance test. So here is the demo of that. Abhi, you raised a point that with HTTPS it is not working. So I tested on Playground as well as on my local Docker instance. So it is able to generate.
Yeah, yesterday we were actually testing on the call. So yeah, it had problems during that time. I don't know what fixes in 9.4. So yeah, I just tested it. So it just takes more time in Playground, but it's finally shows the result, which is good.
If it is taking less time, then it will fail, because when you get actual results, so it takes a long time to generate. And for some URLs like that have redirect, for example, when you hit google.com, it redirects to you www.google.com. For such type of URLs, you will not you should not expect results. Like you will not get this kind of histogram of results. It will be a like plain graph. In short, no results. And I was searching for this. So in their Nighthawk Envoy Nighthawk repository as well, some users have raised this concern. So I don't think it is in our control for URLs that redirect.
Okay. So that's a problem in the Nighthawk itself, right? Okay, sure. Good. Yeah, so other than that, like that was the major enhancement where the Nighthawk is fixed again, and you might see the Nighthawk performance profiles, and you are able to run the performance test. As you can see, like I have just tested a few, yeah, I have tested with Nighthawk on GitHub.com, and it showed me results and how the test performed. So that was it. I can even compare the two. Like the first one is both are the same URL, but the first one is generated from Nighthawk and second from the Fortio. And if I compare both, like the first one, a cumulative and I mean a histogram count, they're coming from the Nighthawk load generator, and the second one is coming from the Fortio one. So since they run on different timestamp and all, so you might see some differences in here, but yeah, you might expect some even chart. Anyways, other than that, there are some fixes in the UI itself where our previous UI wasn't looking good, and it has few problems as well. So right now I can't show you the comparison, but that's what you are able to see. So sorry. Yeah. So all this you can do, go here, click on the URL to test, give your a load generator, provide the times, queries per second and all, and then run test. It will run the test against this HTTPS, against this URL, and it will show the result. So as I said, like you can come back here once the result has been finished, it will be updated to 3 results, and you'll able to. So meanwhile, like our layer 5 had some tests as well. So yeah, now you can compare all the 3 results. So yeah, that was it about from me. Any questions?
Yeah, for those that are into React and working on Meshery UI, there's a couple of items to pick up on this screen, this page. One is that we need a generic icon for the WRK2 load generator. So right now it's just a piece of text. It'd be nice to, have an icon. Of the icons themselves, it's nice to have some color on the screen, although the Fortio icon is like the triple Istio logo. It is orangish in nature, which means that we probably can't use color in the icons. Orange, between red, orange, and yellow, that means very bad, naughty, ugly. They're all negative things. Something's wrong, it's not good, or that's what that color conveys, and we just can't use it. So that means that we need to like mute or neuter those colors, or unify them. And so those icons do convey visually the specific load generator that's been used. However, we need to change the color. There are responsive issues in these cards, both, I think, when the card is front facing like it is right now. Abhi, can you demonstrate, please? A responsive issue on the width of the and then there's also responsive issues on the back side of the card as well. And so, yeah, you'll if there's a volunteer for that, please just crack open a quick GitHub issue. You'll see the issue. Yeah, like right here, you can just screenshot the screen right now, put it into an issue, go work on it. There's also some UX to be done. Like in concept, one of the changes that was done here recently was to put some lines on the back side of the card. And in concept, or that does help with legibility, so that your eyes can trace across from the label to the. However, there's some other visual enhancements that could be done that I won't take all of our time to go over. But yep, if you're into UX, if you're into Golang, something else that needs to be done is, you see where it says service mesh? It's like the fourth from the bottom. In the card that's flipped over, it says Linkerd in all capitals. Well, these performance tests, they're quite valuable if you're running a service mesh. They're also quite valuable if you're not running a service mesh. So you don't need to be running a service mesh to do performance tests. Moreover, you don't need to be running Kubernetes to do a performance test. You could just run Meshery by itself, or just and run performance tests against whatever you want to run performance tests against. If the service that you're testing is running on Kubernetes, there will be some additional statistics, some additional metrics gathered at that time, some node level metrics. Great. If you're running a service mesh, it might gather some additional metrics, but irrespective, this functionality is helpful whether you're running Kubernetes or mesh or not. And to that point where it says service mesh, and in this case it's Linkerd, well, this is an optional field, and so you don't have to be running one. But at some point, it might be even more helpful to the extent that what is listed here is the type of application or the type of endpoint under test. or if you're into QA and performance engineering, sometimes that's referred to as SUT, like SUT, like a system under test. So the system under test here was the local host and well, what is that? Is that like a running instance of Grafana or a running instance of HTTP bin or an Nginx or whatever that is? It would be convenient. It would be a nice piece of metadata about a particular performance profile if people had the ability to label, to select from an enum what type of system is under test. They can put the type of system under test in the description, the name of the thing. In this case, I don't know that it is being said. But yeah, so anyway, there's some enhancements to be done. Those aren't described in GitHub issues. So if you're here to contribute and you're here to do any of that stuff that we just talked about, go crack open a GitHub issue. If you forgot half of what I just said, that's fine. Just crack open an issue and somebody will be by to help describe it further and get you going. Well, thanks for that, Abhi, for letting me. And so, by the way, gentlemen, you had mentioned this potential caveat around, like, does there continue to be a caveat around performance tests performed with Nighthawk against HTTPS? Were you saying there is an issue for slow responding systems under test? Or were you saying, hey, if you get your results back lickety split, then your test has actually failed?
I meant to say there is no issue with HTTP or HTTPS or any performance issue like the test take times or whatever. So,
Cool. Okay. No, thank you. Yeah, good.
All right. Thanks, Abhi and Uzair. So next up is Ansh using conditions to control job execution in GitHub workflow. Ansh, would like to share screen?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the issue was related to using the conditions to control job execution. And here I have added some conditions in the workflows which were having the cron jobs.
Anyone has questions or feedback for Ansh to offer here?
Looks good. Like, yeah, it's a good call out, Ansh. And yeah, it's a little unfortunate that not all build checks, not all CI tests can be run from a forked repo. It's kind of a shame. However, when anyone does open up a pull request, all of the appropriate build checks will run at that time based on your logic here. And so it seems like a solid improvement to me. I think we should find the merge button.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Ansh, for your update. So before we move next, I'll just quickly say we have about 30 participants in meeting. So if you haven't marked your attendance, make sure you mark your attendance. So next up, we have an update from Weber on Meshery docs. Do we have Weber on the call?
Yeah. Hey,
Okay.
hey. I think I forgot to add my name in the attendees list. I'm not able to find the link. I'll just add it later. So yeah, I'll just share my screen.
Cool.
Okay. You can see my screen, right? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, I had this hammer. So basically, this was this was related to hover, right? So I'll tell you what I'm saying. So basically, whenever we in the docs, whenever we selected an option in sidebar, so I think I have it open here. So whenever you select an option in sidebar, so it was not highlighted before. So, but now it is highlighted, as you can see. And the other thing is, if you just go down and if you select any, it'll just go and focus that into that. I mean, but, like it'll scroll it up, auto scroll kind of thing. So yeah, so I'll go through the changes. Yeah, so I just added a basic scroll thingy. I used an iffy basically in here. So, and apart from that, I just yeah, added just some basic I think classes and all. That's it. There wasn't much to it, I think. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I wonder if Antoinette might have feedback on this one. I don't know. She might also be trying to do 4 things at once. So
Yeah. So
Sure, yeah, I can take a look and provide some feedback. And sure, I probably do have 6, 7 things working.
sounds typical of you. Yeah, nice. Yeah, hey, but on line 71, the scroll behavior contains.
yeah.
I don't. Do you mind? I wouldn't. Can you educate me on that one? I don't think I've.
Yeah,
necessarily-
so yeah. Oh my God, how do I move this? Yeah, so basically what that is, if I just open docs. Yeah, so basically if you, oh my God, this is, so basically if you just scroll it down here, right? So after one point, it will just go down, like the whole page will go down, right? If you see this. So what contains does is it's basically like, if you just scroll down. Okay, why is it moving though? That's weird. Okay, that should not happen. So basically that's what contain does, but it's not doing it right now. Not sure why. So it basically stops it from going down. Not sure what's happening now. I guess I'll check it again. So basically what it does is it's basically stops it from, like, you can say, scrolling the whole page, and it just so basically it just separates the scroll to the div in which it is, rather than like moving the whole thing. So after a certain point, it will just move like this. That should not happen. So that's what contain is for, basically. Yeah. Not sure why this is happening. I'll check it again.
Well, I know why it's happening. I mean, it's because you're demoing it. That's why it's happening. Like, I mean,
Oh.
like, of course it's happening because you're demoing it. That's why it's happening.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it again. I'm not sure I checked it there, but yeah, I guess I missed something. Okay, yeah. So basically, yeah, that's that. But yeah, like the bug is basically resolved. Like the bug that was like the highlight thing, that is resolved basically. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for your update, Vaibhav.
Yeah. Yes.
So next up we have 2 items in a row from Pranav. Pranav would like to share.
So first item is about like allowing Meshery adapter to register each key operator as a custom resource so that its resources can be customized and used in Meshery UI. A little bit of context, that is Meshery as a cloud native manager supports a lot of different integrations. Like, and one of its way of managing service meshes is to adapters. One of its adapter is Meshery EC2 adapter, which helps in managing EC2 service mesh and its different add-ons. So like as of right now, EC2 operator was not registered by EC2 adapter, while some other resources were being registered. So what change was required was that first change was that we need to add this specific CRD URL for this Meshery for istio operator. And the second change was that this was the only change. And after that, the latest istio operator resources were being registered by istio adapter when it boots up and when it talks to Meshery server for registration process. Now there is a catch in this, which I want to highlight. That is why this was not working yesterday when I was doing. The thing was that we have a meshkit function, and yeah, so that function is basically responsible for generating the schema from the CRD that we provide to it. And the thing is that it actually checks just for specific properties, checks for this field, that is this thing which is passed through a filter, skew lang filter. And if this is not available, then it errors out and it doesn't actually generate schema. But specific for the CRD which we're trying to generate, it does not have any schema, whether and rather it has just an extension field, and that is the reason that it was not being registered yesterday when I was tracking. So the only change that is required right now is the change in Meshery istio is done. I have to update this schema function so that it doesn't error out when it is not able to find a specific field. Rather, it also supports this extension field for other CRDs that does not have that properties field in the open API schema. So this is the only change that is another change left out for this, and then we are ready to go for istio operator resources being registered by Meshery adapter. So, any question on this? There's one thing which I was thinking right now, like when we would be supporting this extension field, that is like how we would show it in our UI. Because if we have a spec, then we are sure that what different fields that node would be supporting. Like let's say if we come here, then this profile is actually there in the spec. Now, if spec is not defined, then how we would show that in the UI is the second question that we need to discuss. So like that is one thing which we have to like consider when we add support for X Kubernetes extensions. So, like Uzair or Abhi, if you have anything to add on to this.
Yeah, so first of all, these X Kubernetes, which stands for extensible Kubernetes. So I mean, we have to change it to RGSF data. For example, that was there is a field called X Kubernetes inter string, which might take int as well as string, right? So yeah, it could be converted to one-off string or int. Like there is a one-off property which RGSF take, which either takes which would be able to take either string or int. So that's what X Kubernetes inter string says. Same for preserve unknown fields, like what should it I mean, we have to infer the meaning behind what this X Kubernetes preserve input field means, and we have to change it to you know alternative the RGSF alternate. So that's what we have to do.
Yeah, I was a little confused about what UI changes would be required after we like start supporting this thing and stop being very strict about whether spec is always available or not. So like that is one thing.
While the time I mean while the schema is being passed or created, like these X Kubernetes fields should be converted to the the RGSF compliant fields. Other than that, I don't think they could be understood anyways by the RGSF, so we have to anyways convert it. If that conversion is done in UI, so it would be done again and again. But if it is done in backend at one place, like just one time, right? So yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and Abhi, what logic you might use to discern whether or not an extension field is, of what type it is, how to properly typecast it?
Okay. We have to understand it. Like there are 2-3 examples on the screen. First of all, yeah, this Kubernetes talk is a good one. There are examples like X Kubernetes group version kind, like how any how any of our parser will understand it. So we'll have to tell it like GVK group version kind would be of type string. So RSF does just understand strings, objects, arrays, XYZ. So we have to create a mapping between these things. So for that, we have to collect all the X Kubernetes keys and then, write to one-on-one mapping. I mean, that's what I can think of right now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't, good. Hopefully, we don't have to just choose the lowest common denominator of like in the face of int or string, that we don't just have to choose string as the lowest common denominator, but that we can confidently choose int in appropriate cases.
Yes, but
Yeah.
like for some where we don't even know like what fields can be provided, then we have to actually think a little more about that. Because like right now, this preserve unknown field basically means like this specific HT operator can be it can be provided different configuration for either ingress gateway, egress gateway, and the different profiles of the HTTP service mesh as well as the annotation that we want. So it's totally optional whether we want all three of them or just either one of them. So that is one of the reasons.
Good deal. Yeah, good. I think this sufficiently answers the question that I had before about the negative ramifications of supporting the extensions, which is that, any one of the UIs might crash if we're not careful to ensure good error handling around, in potential like incidental validation issue that might be an invalid validation issue. Like, so until maybe we have, as we look to support this relatively quickly, until there is such robust error handling, if there's a way, we may want to choose the lowest common denominator as the mechanism for validation, as a universal setting up front, So which is to say, we may want to treat that property of int or string as a string universally, so that there isn't UI crashes happening or invalid validations happening. Harkarat, is this an area that you want to dig into or no?
Yeah, I can do.
Okay.
As I can easily slide in this conversation.
Nice. Thank you.
So I have one more.
Well, thanks to Harkarat. I mean, I don't know. I guess thanks to Pranav too.
And like I have one more item about catalog content. First, recently I published a new catalog item that is about like installing HTTP service mesh to HTTP operator, and then we can add custom annotation for this specific configuration that we want, which basically annotates with crypto tomb and the delay of 10 minutes. Like it's there in the catalog, which you can try. Like why I'm talking about this is because I recently added one more PR related to catalog that is allowing which to support unpublished directly through Meshery UI. So if you go to your Meshery configuration page and the designs, then you can not only publish your designs, but you can at the same time unpublish them, like in case you want to unpublish and publish a newer version of that. So
And I have a quick question. So
yeah,
is this publish based on user roles?
yeah, only if you have curator role or you have admin role, only then you can publish or you can unpublish. To see if since this catalog item was the one which I published, basically you would also be able to see it and you won't be able to unpublish it because you don't have, if you don't have a curator role, then you won't be able to unpublish. But it's just that this unpublished would be shown on only published items. And if it's not published, then you will see the published button. Like you can see this is an item which is not published right now, it's owned by someone else. So if I click on publish, then it would be published and then the button would be changed to unpublished. So
Okay, all right.
yeah. Okay, sir.
Oh, cool. Let's move to next item since we have just 3 minutes left. So Antoinette would like to give an update on error codes.
Yes, so since we already talked about this earlier in the phone call, one of the things that we did make an update, I submitted a PR to remove unused error code. And that also means that I found that there's some of the error codes weren't being used, they weren't been referenced, or they probably were being used at one point, but we ended up creating a different error code that was similar to it, the different error code names. It was similar to it, but it just, we just forgot that it exists. So, so the next thing that I'm working on is creating to work on the logic on how error util operate whenever it walk through the repository, the directory, check for each of the error codes, make sure they match, whether they don't match. But it's a little bit there's some false positives where you will see that one of the codes that does come up, it does have fields in it, but it's saying that it doesn't exist. So that's one of the things that I'm currently working on. I don't have an open issue on it, but I will be opening one today or tomorrow to patch that. So that's my update on that part.
Cool. Any quick questions for Antoinette?
Yeah, just encouragement to drive it home. It's such a helpful framework, such a strong ground to stand on for the project when Grafana doesn't deploy, and for us to be able to fall back and say like, well, or for the project to be able to fall back and say, well, here's why, and yeah. Anyway. So how many how many GitHub issues do we have open that track enhancements there?
Last I checked, just anything mentioning error code itself. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 open now, but these are all from the oldest one is from back in 2021, and the one recent is the one that about a couple weeks ago. So while these are helpful, it's not. Sorry, let me get the link.
All right. So we are at top of the hour, but we left a couple of items. So is there any urgent item anyone would like to present? If not, we'll be covering all these items at priority in the next meeting, or you can also take feedback in Slack or on Discuss forum.
Gaurav, question, do we have, somebody might have an urgent item, so I don't mean to interrupt that, but but I wonder, do we have the Meshery build and release meeting this week, or is that next week?
Yeah, it's next week, I think, because we had one last.
Okay.
All right. So to all the newcomers who haven't subscribed to the committee calendar, make sure you subscribe to it. I'll quickly share the link in chat. Do press this big fat yellow button. I love saying this. So you can catch the recording of this live stream on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to Layer 5 YouTube channel. And if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to Meshmates community managers on Slack or use Discuss forum to post your topics. So with that, let's call this meeting a wrap. So thanks all for joining. We'll meet next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.